Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. So today is Saturday, May 16th, 2026, and tonight we have the primary underway in the state of Louisiana. Now, Louisiana, there's a very interesting Senate race that is up in 2026 where the incumbent, Bill Cassidy, right here, his name I'm highlighting in purple, he is the incumbent Republican US Senator. Now, he did vote to convict President Trump a few years back on his second impeachment trial, I do believe it was. And since then, he's been viewed as a Republican senator that may potentially be getting primary challenged. Now, in the Republican primary for Louisiana's U.S. Senate race, which is taking place tonight, we may finally see that happen. So this race, there are currently 4 candidates in this race, but the main 3 candidates that you need to be familiar with are the U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican challenger John Fleming, and Republican challenger Julia Letlow. Now, in terms of the seriousness of these candidates, they're all obviously serious, but Julia Letlow is the notable Republican as she is the endorsement of President Trump and has been seen by many as the top Trump ally to go after and primary challenge out U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy. And how are things currently shaping up? Well, we're going to start getting the results from Louisiana tonight, right around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the polls in Louisiana will close. Early voting, there has been some early reports of ballots requested, roughly about 21,000. Ballots returned about 21,000. Overall early voting numbers, according to Decision Desk HQ, is right around 71,061 votes. We'll have to wait and see how it all ultimately shakes out, but I would imagine a higher voting turnout would probably do better for the primary challengers of Letlow and John Fleming over Bill Cassidy would probably be my best guess on this, but it's still too early to say for sure how that's going to go. As for the early, this is what the early map looks like. There's been some votes out of St. Tammany, out of East Baton Rouge, and Jefferson. Those have been the 3 most populous areas thus far in the early voting. But again, we'll have to wait and see how that all goes. As for the polling in this race, it's shown a competitive race, but one that's become quite clear over time. Looking back, for instance, we could start on January 22nd. It was essentially a tied race with Cassidy at 25, Julia Letlow at 24.8. Fast forward to right around the end of February, Bill Cassidy actually took a lead back in this race over Fleming and Julia Letlow as they both were sort of splitting the anti-Cassidy vote. And now for the last few months or so, or last few weeks, or so, in March and in April, Cassidy and Letlow have been tied. Now in the final few days, we've seen Julia Letlow take a lead. We're in the most recent polling update as of May 7th, 2026, the most recent poll updated in this one has Julia Letlow at 34.4%, Fleming's at 24.7%, and Cassidy's at 20.9%. Now, it's very important because this is different in Louisiana than how it's usually been. Previously, Louisiana would use a system called a jungle primary, where it would be all Republicans and the Democrats would advance to the general election, I believe it was, and they would all just, whoever gets the most votes in that race, the top 2 candidates, if no one broke 50%, would advance to a runoff. If the number 1 candidate broke 50%, they would be the winner. This time they are doing closed primaries between Republicans versus Democrats. But that 50% rule still does apply here. If no candidate tonight breaks 50% of the vote, there will be a runoff election between the top 2 vote-getting candidates. So it's looking more and more likely that one of Julia Letlow, John Fleming, and Bill Cassidy, 2 out of the 3 will advance to the runoff election. More likely, it'll be Julia Letlow being one of the 3 for sure. The question is, will it be Bill Cassidy or John Fleming that will advance to the runoff with her, assuming the polls are correct on that one. And when you look at the polling numbers, where Letlow's at 34.4, Fleming's at 24.7, and Cassidy's at 20.9, unless one of the 2 candidates of Fleming or Cassidy falls off to like under 10%, there's just not going to be enough vote left out there for one candidate to probably break 50% outright. So we're probably going to see a runoff on this race, but again, we'll have to wait and see who. As for the Kalshi market odds in this race, again, you can see the trends over time here. Julia Letlow has been the leading candidate for pretty much the entire time. It did get very close very recently, actually, towards the beginning of May. Look at May 3rd, Letlow's at 59, Fleming's at 35. Now you can go to May 6th, Letlow's at 50.5, Fleming's only at 49.37. So it became very close. John Fleming nearly took the lead in the Kalshi odds on this one. Now, ultimately, as things went on, and we've reached to today, Letlow still has a large lead over Fleming at 78 to 18, at this current point in time. One thing that's been very clear is the downward trend of Bill Cassidy, who back in August is at 62% chance to win. Now he's down all the way to roughly about a 5% chance to win. So the market odds clearly show Letlow as the leader. Having the Trump endorsement certainly is a big reason why. It also shows John Fleming as the second most likely candidate, with Bill Cassidy really just an afterthought at this current point in time. Though again, these are Kalshi, obviously, odds. These are prediction type odds that can be very subject to change as votes come in. So we're going to have to keep an eye on these as the votes do ultimately come in. But that's on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, there are 3 Democrats running. Louisiana is a state that's typically more Republican, so the Democrats don't have a very strong chance of winning this race in the general election. But as for the primary, 3 Democrats are running: Gary Crockett, Jamie Davis, and Nicholas Alvarez. As for the market odds from Kalshi on this one, Jamie Davis Jr. has taken the large lead on this one as of now. Really, since roughly about the middle part of March or so, it looks like Jamie Davis will be the leading Democrat as well. We'll have to wait and see again also if a runoff will be needed on this one. As for Louisiana and the general election standpoint, this Senate race in 2020 for Bill Cassidy, he won by 40.3%. And again, this is what the jungle election system was used. Cassidy was one of 2 leading Republicans. He got 59.32%. The other Republican, Murphy, got 1.85%. But there were a number of Democrats running in the race. Perkins got 19.02, Edwards 11.09, Pierce 2.69, Knight 1.78. So under the old system, it would be that if Cassidy got 59.32%, say he got 49%, he didn't break 50%, he would go to runoff election against the second place candidate, which would be Perkins, the Democrat. Obviously, that was not needed, but Cassidy won here. This time around, I believe we're going to have, I think it's going to be 1 Republican after the runoff, 1 Democrat after the runoff. There is 1, and then there may be an independent or third-party candidate heading to the general as well. And given how overwhelmingly red Louisiana usually is, we're not going to see a runoff election probably this time around, if my information is correct. In the 2022 Senate race with fellow U.S. Senator John Kennedy, he got 61.56%. And again, a similar situation of the Democrat candidate splitting the vote 3 ways, and another Republican came out 1.83%. As for the most recent election we have from 2024, the presidential race, Donald Trump won this race by 22 points against Kamala Harris. In 2020, when the Democrats had a better night, it still voted for Trump by 18.6%. So Louisiana is a very red state. We can even look at the governor election, which usually at the governor level is more competitive. In 2023, the Republican Landry won this race over his Democratic opponent by 25.6%, again in an open primary system. You may remember before that, Louisiana had a Democratic governor in John Bel Edwards, who narrowly won re-election in 2019. So at the governor level, Louisiana has shown it can be competitive, especially with the right Democrat running, but more recently, it's been very safe Republican. And at the House level, I'll just bring this up as well, because at the House level, there is talk of the map getting redistricted. As of today, it has not been redistricted yet, but it could be very close to either the 6th District or 2nd District getting redrawn to be more Republican-friendly. Judging by the overall percentages here, the 2nd District, which I do believe includes parts of New Orleans, was about a 46-point Democratic seat. The 6th District was a 13-point seat, so it's probably easier for the Democrats, or for the Republicans, to draw out the 6th District than the 2nd, but again, that'll all be speculation for a later date. As for the Senate map overall for 2026, right now the Republicans are favored in 46 Senate seats, Democrats 44, with 10 I currently have in the toss-up category. Now the toss-ups are 5% margin of victories or under based on my current projections. There are a lot of Senate seats that Republicans currently hold that started out as not competitive but have now become competitive. These are places like Alaska or Texas, Nebraska, even Iowa. Louisiana is just not going to fall into that category. It's too red of a state. And even with the Republican incumbent going down, a more Trump-aligned Republican candidate in Louisiana still should do very well, regardless of Trump's approval ratings being roughly around 40% on the most recent polling averages. So that's where things really stand on that current point. All eyes are on the Republican primary between Letlow, Bill Cassidy, and John Fleming to see how that shakes out. And then as for the general election, all the political prediction sites have it listed as safe for the Republicans, as does myself, so not really too much of a surprise there, but it's very interesting. It looks like the incumbent Republican Bill Cassidy, who was elected back in 2014, I do believe for the first time, it is looking like that vote to convict President Trump has come back certainly to haunt him, as he's probably going to lose this race in the Republican primary. It is also interesting that he was running against the Democratic incumbent. I believe this was Mary Landrieu, and she actually won on the initial vote on election day by 1.1%. Then again, they go to a runoff election, the top two advance. Cassidy wins by 11.9%. And then I showed the election he won very handily in 2020. Now with the primary system, it's looking like Cassidy is going to lose tonight. That's also a new thing as well I wanted to mention was the system that they're using now following the House Bill 17 in 2024. This will be the first U.S. Senate election in Louisiana to utilize the party primary system instead of a single blanket primary since 2010. Obviously, Landry, the governor of Louisiana, is a very close ally of President Trump, and I'm sure President Trump probably wanted this as a way to primary out Cassidy easier in this as well. But yeah, that's all I have for you really in today's video. We're looking at Bill Cassidy potentially losing this primary in Louisiana. Doesn't have much ramifications at the general election level for the Senate map in 2026, but still, whenever a incumbent senator is going to lose in a primary or general election, it's certainly notable and something to talk about. But I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are. Leave them all in the comments section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please keep an eye out as I post at least one video every single day that you're not going to want to miss. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please again remember to hit like and subscribe, and hope to see you in a future video.